Okay, so I'm Sophia. I'm going to speak as slow as I can. And again, please ask questions at the end. So, plants. Plants are the ultimate source of wellness. There are about 300,000 different species of plants in the world. It's a source of oxygen, source of grain, source of fruit, source of vegetables, source of medicines. What's also interesting, it's also a very versatile source for food and beverages today. As we heard, it flavors and sweetens beverages, and we've been hearing a lot about stevia, which is a new way of sweetening beverages. And also, plants are transformed by specific processes. So you can ferment a plant to make beer and wine. You can distill it to make whiskey, and we saw this fantastic town product just earlier, which is also, if you really think about it, a plant, sourced from a plant. As well, you can as well infuse plants or plant derivatives to make a very lovely drink as well. Okay, there are 3 questions today. What is driving the explosion of plant wellness in the West? Because I come from the West, and I'm going to share with you a bit about what is actually encouraging the explosion across outside of China, outside of the East. I'll talk a bit about plant waters, and you will get a chance to taste plant waters in the next session. So this is advertising to please stay. And as well, is there a sweet spot in soft drinks that I think in China you may be missing? And how can we as well find other sources of growth in China to be able to exploit this explosion in plant wellness? So, what's driving it? So in the West, people are turning away from meat a lot. If it's about environmental issues, if it's about the amount of hormones in meat, if it's about how the meat is treated, people are very much moving away from a diet that is rich in meat. There's also something that's happening in the West, which you may not know, but they use the word locavore or localivore, which essentially says that for many people, they want to be able to eat something which is grown or which is planted no more than 100 miles away or 160 kilometers away. And that's very much become something which is a fashion in the West, that people are calling themselves locavores. So that's something new, I guess, which is very much happening in many parts of the West. We've talked a lot about clean labels, that people are very much getting back to basics. What exactly is in the drink? How long is the ingredient line? And actually, what exactly is in the product? Which people are very much, they want to be able to see that product and understand that product actually comes from a familiar source, which is what's also driving this. The other question is, what is this plant doing for me? And I use this example because this is typically me after a long day of innovating, listening to teleconference calls all over the world. And what's emerging in the West is something which I know you know, because it's something which you've grown up with as well, and probably ignored, which is this whole role of what you call adaptogens, which is a particular type of plant, red shen, which is ginseng, is one of your products, and that's one of the growing products in the world, or plants in the world, which in terms of is allowing people a more natural way of recovery, of giving them energy to be able to deal with life. It used to be caffeine. Caffeine was what was driving a lot of the energy beverages, and of course Red Bull here is number 1. But much more in the West, people are looking for more natural sources for helping people to survive and deal with the world. The other thing, which is funny, I started coming to China 15 years ago, and I was always surprised why people, whenever you sat down to eat a meal, you wouldn't just sit down to eat, you would take photographs of the meal first. And I always wondered, was it some kind of health and safety concern you had? Why do you, in checking the food to see whether it was healthy or not? but actually the culture and the way of photographing food and sharing what you're about to eat really and truly started here. And a lot, if you can imagine meat type product versus plant product, any dishes which have plants or vegetables and fruit in it are far more attractive looking. And so what's driving this sort of plant sort of wellness trend is also the ability to share good looking food. And invariably that comes from plant sources. So in the West, plant wellness drinks have been taken off. And I'll talk about 4 types. First type is what you call non-dairy or 100% plant power, which of course you know because you've grown up with this. I remember for breakfast in Shanghai, I would often go to the side of the road and get my plastic bag of soy milk with a straw, and I would drink that. And for me, that was something quite new, quite novel, quite exciting. But you probably think that's really boring. But it was very a novel way of drinking my breakfast in a straw, in a bag. And I'm drinking soy milk, so I'm not drinking cow's milk, but drinking soy milk. That has actually taken off. So soy milk, rice milk, almond milk, any kind of plant-derived drink that looks like milk has actually taken off very much in the world, and led by Alpro, which is doing a huge success globally. Tea, of course, has taken off around the world, especially green tea. And I'll come back to green tea a bit later. Green tea in particular, and of course you know this because you've grown up with this, but green tea in particular is quite a refreshing beverage. But again, most of the West, because of the way culture tea has evolved, most of the West drink black tea. So it's the oxidized, ugly, dirty part of tea. But particularly green tea is actually the more refreshing, and the area of tea which is growing very strongly. The other area that is growing a lot in Europe and in the US is what we call green juices and smoothies. I work part-time for a global packaged fruit company, and we are looking at new innovative ways to bring fruit to people every day. And one easy way of doing this is by delivering products like this, which is essentially fruit and vegetables blended and then perhaps put through HPP or cold press processing steps. So very minimally processed, very clean label, and this is actually something which is growing strongly in the West. The other area is what we call plant waters. And I'll talk a bit about plant waters now. So, coconut water. I grew up in the Caribbean, in case you're wondering this funny British accent. I am British, but I grew up in the Caribbean, where we had coconut trees in the back of our yard, and we never bothered thinking about bottling it and selling it. I should have. I would have been a billionaire by now, but it stayed on the tree, and every so often we would go climb it or get somebody to climb it for us, and we'd have a bit of fresh juice. But of course, in 2004, Vita Coco, which you will hear about in another session, they got the idea to bottle it. And in 2015, this category called coconut water is now generating about $8 billion. So it's a huge category, half of which is accounted for by sales in China and the US. What's interesting though is that there's an emerging category which is part of this coconut water trend called plant waters or other plant waters, which some people say may deliver an extra $2 billion worth of sales in the next 10 years or so. What do I mean? So this is products like aloe vera, which I mean many of you know is exploding in the West, but also traditionally used in Malaysia and Thailand, and also now becoming much more familiar in drinks in the West. Birch water, and I'll talk a bit about birch water in a minute. We're seeing as well cactus water. Trust me, it tastes awful. But, and also seeing chlorophyll water. And if you imagine, chlorophyll water is basically the chlorophyll, which is the green bits that make the leaf green. They're bottling that into water. Why? Because, again, it goes back to the inside. People are just going crazy for anything that to do with a plant. Not necessarily that this will survive, but again, it's again part of the trend of seeing more and more plant waters. Now, this is a forest in Finland or in Ukraine, in Northern Europe and Eastern Europe. What's happening here is that in the spring, so just after winter, when the ground begins to thaw and the tree begins to wake up, the water comes up through the tree to start waking up the tree. This water is tapped. So something is drilled through the tree, and then a pipe is put in, and then this water comes out. That's what you call birch water. That's the sap that comes from these trees that create what's called birch water or maple water. It's just a type of tree. And this has become something which is quite new and trendy as well in Western markets. The nice thing about plant waters like this, so maple water and birch water, is that it's low sugar, it's natural. As you can see, it comes straight from the tree. There's a lot of folklore, a lot of storytelling about what it can do for you, and also, as you can see, it's not that hard to get it. You just drill a hole into a tree, and you have birch water. But it's very difficult because it's hard to differentiate between the waters, and you'll taste it yourself in terms of what exactly it tastes like. Very, very difficult. Not very easy to add flavor and functionality on top of it, just because it's not a natural carrier for additional ingredients. So it's not that easy to add some variety into this product. A lot of the product claims are rubbish, and it's not, let's say, tested for centuries the way green tea has been tested, for instance. So there's a lot of storytelling, but not necessarily anything that has been proven beyond it hydrates and gives you some extra water. And the big issue is to scale it and to make sure it's sustainable. Part of the challenge is that, yes, you can get birch water in Ukraine or Finland, but you can only get that water for 3 weeks every year. And after those 3 weeks every year, you can't get any more sap. So that's it. That's it. For the next 49 weeks, you don't get any more sap. So the challenge is what do you do beyond this area, and as well as very, very premium price, which of course it's fine if you're in this if you want premium price, but also difficult. So I had published this idea of how to find this sweet spot. I was quite happy to see Boston Consulting Group also have it up on their screen yesterday. I really felt like I'd been validated. So there's a couple of things that you need to think about when you're doing your innovation, because that's what I'm here to do, offer advice, not just talk about trends, but also offer specific advice. The first thing, you need to deal with what I call the hygiene stuff, the basic stuff. No artificials, make sure you have a transparent label, very low in sugar, very low in calories. Yes, there's room for indulgent products, but the vast majority of products that are going to be successful in the market are products that are low in sugar and also low in calories. Not necessarily zero, not necessarily no calories, but lower in calories and sugar than people have been accustomed to selling in the past. As I talked about before, about what's in these plants that are so exciting and so attractive, you've got to make sure to think about your main ingredient, the main source of your drink. What's innately functional? So what does it do for the body? What does it do for the person? Not just what story you can create. It's got to be something real and something tangible. Because people are going to be asking, people are going to be using WeChat to figure out, are you telling me a lie or not? And so you've got to make sure you've got something which you can support as well. The other thing which I think you need to think about this, so as you get exciting products coming to the market, don't forget that it's got to make sure the products can be daily habit forming. What I mean is that it's available everywhere and it's something that actually people will want to be drinking every day. Not just once a week or once a month or once a year. That's not going to provide you with an enduring or sustainable business. So, a few minutes now on tea. Tea is sustainable, you know this. It's, you go anywhere outside of Shanghai, you head down to Hangzhou, and you see tea plantations until you get tired. It's around, it's available in plentiful supply. It's a natural carrier for functionality. Tea is brilliant because it's quite an easy beverage to sort of add stuff on top, and it doesn't really change a lot the nature of the integrity of the drink. It has quite a strong health halo, and it's a health halo which has endured centuries, so I think is also something to be aware of. Per capita consumption is still low, and somebody said earlier, the guy from DSM said how people in China drink a lot of ready-to-drink tea. Yeah, okay, we drink probably about 11.6 servings a year. Hong Kong, the US, drink over 50 servings a year. There's still a lot of room for growth within this category as well. So you still haven't tapped really and truly the opportunity within ready-to-drink tea. And actually it's a category which is quite trendy without trying. And if you do a Google search, and of course you can't do Google Trends here in China yet, but if you do a Google Trends search, you will see that products like coconut water and other of those newer stuff are interesting, but actually when people are searching for stuff that they really want to know more about, things like green tea bubble to the top, because people are really interested about what are the benefits of products like tea. As we all know, the history or the folklore behind how tea started, with these tea leaves dropping into this emperor's glass. We think it's true in 2700 BC. But it's become a huge culture, and of course I live in Britain, and of course British people think that they invented tea. But of course they invented a part of the tea culture, which is part of the global culture of tea. So they have really and truly embraced this whole idea and understanding about tea. People have fought wars over tea, and of course I wouldn't really talk about too many wars, but it's a part of tea. It's what makes tea so interesting. It's part of the US independence effort, and also as well Britain trying to make Chinese drugged up was part of the reason for the war. And as well, you're seeing a lot of the whole tea culture moving out from just in the home and into out of home. And so you're seeing a huge amount of social bars being sprouting up. This is a bar in San Francisco. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. You don't see a traditional teapot in sight. It's very, very trendy, and that's something which is part of the tea culture, which is becoming part of the global thing. The interesting thing about ready-to-drink tea in China, it's dominated by two types of tea. One is what I call the real herbal, heavy, traditional type of tea. So the JDB and these teas, and then you have these other teas which are very much more what I call almost like a Coke. It's all about refreshing, very high in calories, very high in sugar, but not really truly delivering any real benefits, or it's moved, I think, too far from its nature of it being a healthy beverage. So that's where my partner and I came in. So I've got a business partner who's Chinese, and so we went back to think about how do we make tea a bit more healthy. So you talk about inspiration. After dinner one night, I was sitting at dinner and thinking, I need to come up with a brand which we can talk about tea. And I thought about Renshen. I thought about Ren. Yeah, so Ren is people, person. I decided to move it, just move it a little bit of an angle, which looks like tea, in English, tea. And then G, which is kind of, it's enhanced with lots of good stuff. And so TG, which is a brand of tea, which you will taste in a while, was born. This TG now brand has been trademarked in the US, in Europe, in China. And the idea of this tea is that we are not just looking at tea from just being green tea only, but working out how to incorporate traditional Chinese medicine into the offer, but in a much more light, much more healthy, much more softer way. So your Benkao Gamu book, sorry, I didn't pronounce it properly, but the traditional Chinese medicine, which is where a lot of the inspiration for the ingredients have come from. So this is our range of hot and iced teas. we have two sets of teas, and these products have just been launched in the UK. We've been getting huge amount of interest in it for two reasons. One, we have looked at green tea and gone back to the source of green tea. So the source of green tea is China. Our hot green tea, and we have a few packs here, actually is sourced from China and packed. Actually, our green tea supplier, she came as well to the event. Her company is based in Hangzhou, and Shishianti Group, they are our partner, collaborating with us on developing an organic, ethical range of green teas, which we have just won some Great Taste Awards in UK, which is pretty big deal, because generally green tea don't win Great Taste Awards. But we've managed to do so, because we've been very careful to find something which is quite unique and quite interesting. We have, for the iced teas, just won some awards as well, a Packaging and Design Award. We were very specific about taking a British designer and integrating Chinese cultural symbols, but also adding a bit of London street into the design to also bring a little bit more novelty and newness to the idea. So far so good. We'll see how that evolves. So what I've been trying to say is that there is a huge plant wellness trends in the world happening now in different areas. One of the things that you need to think about is what does that mean for your innovation pipe, and I'm very happy to have discussions with you individually as to how you might unlock the opportunities in your categories. But just to say as well, ready-to-drink tea is still very much, I think, an untapped opportunity, even in China. It's growing at about 8 to 10% at a compound level, and it's $57 billion in sales, so it's huge. It's very small in Europe, so you talk about sales, you talk about how to drive your export market forward, and their potential for collaborations as well. It's a very undeveloped market in Europe as well, so there's opportunity there to drive as well ready-to-drink tea in Europe as well. And as I said before, there are lots of functionality in tea, which you can then help them to be able to meet this increasing need and desire for very healthy, very convenient products. So I will stop now because I want to take questions. But I just want to say that if you want to reach me, I'm on WeChat, not very good on it, but I can try. And also on Twitter and also LinkedIn. Please connect. I also have business cards for us to talk about. Because I see your heritage, your cultural heritage, your food and drink heritage as second to none. And the issue is how do you harness that, both domestic but also for export, to really and truly build even a bigger opportunities within food and drink in China. So thank you very much.
的确呢，索菲亚女士的演讲让我感觉特别激动，因为中国人呢有药食同源的这样一个消费习惯，几乎每个月都有国内的一些饮料企业带着他们的创意，找到我们来交流，大家带来的产品也五花八门，比如有刚才那个索菲亚女士提到的一些原料，还有像麦苗啊、玉米花心啊、人参啊、石斛啊。芦笋、芦荟等等等等，几乎药食同源的这几百个产品呢，我们饮料企业都想把它装进这个瓶子、罐子中做成饮品。那么中国的植物饮品这个大类别增长确实也比较迅速，植物蛋白饮料呢已经有几百亿的这样一个规模，像其中一些细分门类，像核桃乳已经到了300多亿的这样一个市场容量。那么像椰子乳呢，椰子汁呢大概是100多亿、近200亿的容量。未来呢，我相信呢更多的原料的这种。和我们饮料工艺的结合创新呢，会有更多的产品呈现在我们的面前。大家呢关于植物饮料的创新有什么样的这个问题需要交流，请抓紧时间呢和我们的索菲亚女士进行互动。
Hi Sophia, thank you very much for your presentation. So you were talking about finding the sweet spots, right? And so you were mentioning the sustainability and the ethical source for the consumers to think about when they are consuming the beverages. So I assume it's for the Western market that you were talking about. So my question is, so how do you predict the Chinese consumer is going to be like in the next 20 years? Like how the sustainability, the ethical concern is going to be in the next 20 years in China?
Very good question. Now, as your market is developing, in many ways it's still a developing market. The whole sort of what I call sophistication, pretend sophistication, which is in the West, you don't have as yet, but you will get there. Because of course, as more money comes, people want more and more sophistication and all this artificial sort of ideas. But in essence, you will evolve to the same sort of way. You're going to be more concerned about the environment, more concerned about ethical credentials, more concerned about the organic nature and how much care has been put into the drinks. Now I understand because you're on a big growth curve, but of course food security is already a problem in China. I tell you, for me to be able to bring the green tea to market in the US, it has to be organic. I mean, my green tea partner is there, and she will say that. We have to be USDA certified, and we have to be European certified as well, for people to trust that the products that are coming, or the raw materials and the finished product coming from China as well, is safe, and is because of all the noise that people hear about issues with pollution, etc., and how that impacts the food. Chinese consumers are going to care as much as anybody else. It's just a matter of time.
因为时间问题呢，我们再安排最后一个提问环节了，有请。
Thank you, Sophia. As you know, China is the country of green tea. So you have your TG green tea, the low sugar, and other little functionality, like ginseng and things. How do you have any plan to launch this product in China with your company?
Okay, so that's my Chinese partner. So she's just planned to ask the question. We're looking for a partner, so very open to discussion. The challenges for you as a beverage developer, regardless of where we are in your state of development, is that it's not always that the innovation will come internally. You may need to find partners outside. Now, in Europe, there's much more active, much more vibrant startup culture for which people are working much together, partly because of the way that the access to market is a bit easier, whereas I know the access to market here is a lot harder. But there's no point, I think, ignoring the opportunity that Shanghai as a market, which is in many ways very similar to London. You might think I'm crazy, but it is. I know both countries. So there's no reason why Shanghai can also become a hotbed for innovation even more than it is today.